Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden, and welcome to Philosophical Coffee. So, this is what we're going to talk about today. Lewis Carroll, fancy meeting you here. I just had a massive epiphany. Alice in Wonderland is a book I have fucking hated all of my life until now. And I was taking a bath. Of course, I was in the water. And I had this massive, oh my God. Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland. And I remember in 1998, 1997, I was in this massive hypothetical, it was a debate. It was a very, very deep debate on the hidden meaning and the purpose of Alice in Wonderland. And the individual I was debating with would go on to be my second husband. And he was adamant that Alice in Wonderland was about drugs and psychedelics. I was adamant that it was about logic. We were both wrong. It was about the second perspective of the U of I. It was about the different perspectives. And I was reflecting this morning on mirroring and how we learn, and we learn and absorb everything through mirroring repetition. And I was talking very, very deeply. I was thinking very reflectively on, but I'm bummed. We do that on purpose, by the way. Us saying, oh, I was reflecting on is literally us referencing our mirroring ability to learn. I cannot emphasize to you enough how much the law of reflection in optic physics is how we learn. It is all how we learn. It is the first rule of education and learning is this mirroring concept. And I was thinking about my partner, and my partner and I wrote him a letter this morning, and he's on walkabout. Bottom line, he's on walkabout. And this is where a lot of people break up. Oh, you're on walkabout, you're going to grow. How dare you? And then they break up. And the way we handle it is very different. We have 3 rules, and not rules. They were ethical code that established and founded our whatever this is, and it's still there. It's something that we established on day 1, that forgiveness, you always allow for mistakes. 2 was flexibility for our differences. And 3 was allowance for growth. That's it. Those are the rules of our relationship, friendship, whatever this develops into. So no matter what happens, we won't break because we have forgiveness, flexibility, and growth. And he is in his growth. I was in my growth. We both have forgiveness. So it's all right. You go on walkabout. I love you. And you will have an Irish welcome when you get back. I have a lot of people who abuse me for this, who tell me, oh, you need to dump him. And this is an example of narcissistic romantic love and wisdom love. And I was thinking about it today that people don't know what wisdom love looks like. They don't know what real love looks like because we have everything backwards. And that's when I thought about Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass. In fact, in Broken, one of the chapters, I'm going to point out, it's a mirror, and it says broken. My subconscious mind loves little riddles and games like this. And one of the chapters and segments is here is called Breaking the Looking Glass and Descending the Psychedelic. I love wordplay. And the Breaking the Looking Glass was an absolute reference to Alice in Wonderland, subconsciously, without me really understanding the full implementation of what I was writing. It felt good. It felt logical at the time. And I wrote Breaking the Looking Glass. And now here I am, June 9th of 2024, almost 10 years after writing this. And now I understand the full implication of what my subconscious mind was telling me. Alice in Wonderland is extraordinary. If I were to write a book, to communicate to the world what I see, I would write Alice in Wonderland. And suddenly I went, oh, son of a bitch. When she drinks the liquid and eats the candy and she grows and shrinks, that's not drugs, you dip fucking shit, I want to say to my then husband from 1992, 1998. What it was a shift in perspective so that she could go through a situation from one perspective. It's Gulliver's Travels all over again, which shows you 4 different perspectives. Oh my God. And I know this about Gulliver's Travels. That was easy. But I didn't see it in Alice in Wonderland when she's walking among the flowers. And then the insanity and the lack of logic in Wonderland was a reflection on the Matrix and the insanity of modern day. I didn't even see it. That with a shift in perspective, boom, this is what Alice in Wonderland means. I'm really tempted to text my ex and be like, I figured out Alice in Wonderland. With a shift in perspective, you can see the insanities of modern man. But we learn through mirroring and reflection, which is why she went down the rabbit hole. Oh, this makes so much more sense now, because the abstract mind is a rabbit hole. Believe me, it's a rabbit hole, which is why she was chasing the rabbit in the beginning. Why else would she go down a rabbit hole but to chase the rabbit? And chasing the rabbit was literally, I know what that is. That was Socrates. That's my philosopher's compass. Oh, yes, is it? Where I'm sitting here going, oh, yeah, my rabbit hole, my white rabbit was, who are we? Where are we? Where did we come from? Where are we going? And why are we here? That was my rabbit. That was my white rabbit. And I fucking chased that thing. And I went down the rabbit hole. And then I got a different shift in perspective. And then I'm going, oh, well, shit. Now I can see everyone's insanity because I went down the rabbit hole. See, Alice in Wonderland is now making so much more sense. And then this is the best part. This is the best part. The sequel is called Through the Looking Glass. And the looking glass is, this is where love steps in. This is where we've got it backwards. We are loving backwards because we're in the looking glass. Oh, this is gorgeous, you fucking gorgeous, beautiful mind of Lewis Carroll. My God, this is fucking genius. I'm jealous that I didn't write Alice in Wonderland now. So, I'm so rereading it. I got to reread it now. I'm like, oh, and the Wabbajack. It all makes sense now. Oh, the Mad Hatter and the Tea Party. Everything makes sense. But you got to be in the second perspective of the U of I to understand Alice in Wonderland. Okay, so like when I read Victor Hugo, I went, oh, well, when I read Victor Hugo, I was like 12 or 14 years old. So here I am now in the, I had to be in the 12th perspective of the I of I to go, oh, Victor Hugo's a 12th perspective of the I of I. And after that, everyone's work like stopped. Like it was, I could like literally sit down, and I remember when Ayn Rand got to the 10th perspective. Ayn Rand was 10th perspective of the I of I. She stopped. She never got past the 10th perspective of the I of I. She may have made it. No, she was 10th perspective. I was going to say she may have made it to the 11th perspective, but she never learned forgiveness. You learn forgiveness when you get out of the 10th perspective. Technically, she didn't learn empathy. She was a narcissist. So maybe she didn't even make it through the 9th. She may not have even made it to the 9th. So I can see where Ayn Rand was like, oh, she was like 8th, 9th. Yeah, she was like 9th perspective. She was like 9th perspective. She never learned empathy. So I would say that she was definitely 9th perspective. And then, yeah, she was definitely 9th perspective. And then Victor Hugo was 12th perspective. H.G. Wells, oh God. And H.G. Wells, Time Machine. He was about the 8th, 9th perspective, maybe. Yeah, 8th, 9th perspective. So I can see where all the great books all fall into all the different perspectives and who's from where. And I got to the I got to the first perspective of the U of I, and I went, okay, that's it. Jesus was at the 12th perspective, or the first perspective. Yeah, he was about the 12th perspective in the first perspective of the U of I. That's where I could see where Christ was. That's where I was like, oh, there was one more click that fell into place. And I said, all right, so I'm done here. I don't see anyone else. And then I got to the second perspective of the U of I, and I'm like, I'm not seeing anything new. So I'm like, all right, it looks like all the great authors have been read and everyone's done. Now I have to read a few other authors. I need to read Alexander Dumas, who I'm reading now. I have to read, I still have not read Tolstoy. Oh my God, how embarrassing is that? So I love my brain. How embarrassing is it that I have not read Tolstoy? So, and I have Anna Karenina. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? So I have I need to read Tolstoy. I really need to read Tolstoy. And I'm sitting here going, okay, so and I also haven't read Herman Melville. I need to read Melville, and I also need to read Ernest Hemingway. Now, Ernest Hemingway's easy. I know his work. I was able to figure him out relatively easy. Without reading his work. So I'm sitting here like looking at everybody going, okay, I can see where each author hit different perspectives. So you can literally study the great books and you can go, oh, this is where each of the authors was. So I'm one of these days, and this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Is I'm going to read these books. And I'm going to be like, by the way, this author's here. This author's here. So you can read the different authors and go, oh, I'm reading all these different abstract perspectives. Lewis Carroll is so far the most advanced. And Alice in Wonderland suddenly stopped being this weird, crazy anomaly. And it went, oh my God, it makes so much sense. So when we learn, we are supposed to learn, well, and we do, we learn mirroring. So we are learning this beautiful, idealized parental model of conditional, backwards in the mirror, get out of the mirror, Anna, of unconditional love and unconditional belonging. And we are mirroring, repetitioning this. Oh, Lewis Carroll is going to save the world, people. This is how we're going to do it. So I'm sitting here like mirroring, repetitioning off of our parents. Parent is the mirror. We are mirroring their behavior. But when mommy and daddy have narcissism, you got to go through the looking glass. You've got to go through the look. I'm going to speak this in 12 perspective and I'm going to translate because I know I got to say this first. You got to go through the looking glass and you've got to literally reverse the mirroring. It's reflective. It's physics, optic physics, law of reflection. When you have a broken mirror, when you have a mirror, makes sense now. When you have a broken mirror, in order to learn, you can't learn off of the mirror. You have to become the new mirror and you have to gain a new reflection on the reverse side of the mirror. So you're going to have to go in to reverse the reflection. You have to become, you have to just step into the 12th perspective on it. Just go right into the depths here. Go right into the abstract. Define the abstract and then translate it. Define first, translate second. You need a mirror on a mirror. You need to reflect a mirror on a mirror. So you need to mirror the reflection, not the actual mirror. You cannot use the mirror anymore. You must create a new reflection. So you have your parent, your partner, your parent. Oh, parent is original mirror. Oh, that's what parent means. Oh, parent. I don't want parent portal. Parent definition means first. No, come on. I want to go archaic here. Archaic. I want the archaic definition. I want the first definition. A source of origin of a smaller or lesser important part. A source of origin. That's it. It's a source of origin. So you have your source of origin and you're supposed to mirror the source, but it's broken. So what you want to do is step through the looking glass. I would say supplant the mirror. That's what I've been saying the whole time is supplant the mirror. But we have this connection to our original source. The original source is like, come on, Don Quixote. It's all about the mirrors, isn't it? You need to look at the mirror with a new perspective. It's going to take the truth, the mirror of reality, Don Quixote and Lewis Carroll, Don Quixote and Alice in Wonderland. You need the mirror of reality so you can see Portrait of Dorian Gray. You can't see the Portrait of Dorian Gray without Don Quixote's mirror of reality. And then you can realize that you're looking through the looking glass. That's it. You cannot see the Portrait of Dorian Gray without first reflecting the mirror of reality onto it. And then you can see that you are in the looking glass. You need the mirror of reality on the portrait of Dorian Gray. You need to shift perspectives. The looking glass. God, it makes so much more sense now. When you choose a rabbit to follow, it leads you down the rabbit hole. And it changes your perspective. When it changes your perspective, you start to realize that you're on the other side of the mirror. You become the thing to reflect. That's it. You become the thing to reflect. You become the parent. Ah, there it is. There's click. There it is. You become the parent. You have to demote your parents. You become the parent, which is why we say things like you have to self-parent. So what self-parenting really is you establishing yourself as the mirror. But what do you reflect? Because you require the mirror. There it is. It's the self-parent. That's what self-parenting is. That is exactly what Alice in Wonderland is about. It's becoming the self-parent. It's that moment when she says, no more nonsense. No more nonsense. That makes so much more sense. It is possible that Alice in Wonderland is now like my favorite book in the world because it literally shows the world, hey, this is what I see. And it's the problem is people don't get it because you have to be like the second perspective of the U of I to understand it. Wow. What else did Lewis Carroll write? I want more. Yeah, what else did he write? Can't tell me that's all he wrote. I won't believe it. The controversial genius behind Alice in Wonderland. Controversial. Yeah. Says a bunch of fourth perspectives. Oh, he was influenced by Hans Christian Andersen. So was I. Wow. Okay. I could slap. What is this? What is this? Oh, no, we're not doing simple English Wikipedia. What is that garbage? Oh, no, 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 no. I do not want Cliff Notes on my Cliff Notes, people. My daughter's over there giggling at me. I'm like, what is simple English? And it's like a paragraph. And I'm like, what the fuck? All right. His pen name was Lewis Carroll. His real name was Charles Lutwidge. Okay, what I want is his books. I want to know what else he wrote. Wow, you beautiful brain. Holy fucking shit. Kitty, kitty. Oh, he was an inventor also. Oh, he did mathematics. Of course he did. Geometry, matrix, algebra, mathematical logic, and recreational mathematics. I love this man. He has my brain. Yeah. Oh, this is so fucking gorgeous. Okay, literary works. Through the Looking Glass, Jabberwocky, and Wallace and the Carpenter. Mathematical works, a syllabus of plain algebraic geometry, the fifth book of Euclid treated algebraically, an elementary treatise on determinants, the Euclid and his modern rival, symbolic logic, oh my fucking God, I love this man. Oh my God, the game of logic. I love him. Oh, I love him. Oh my God. Oh, I'm going to be delving into the world of Lewis Carroll very quickly. Okay, so he went from like my most hated author suddenly to my most loved author. I'm like, oh my God, I love your brain. So yeah, and it's funny because I hated him, but I had him in Broken. Like, yeah, I say Wonderland so many times. I could not fucking see it. This is just the genius of, oh my God, holy fucking shit, breaking the looking glass. For God's sakes, it's his fucking mirror is on my. I love the way the subconscious mind works. The subconscious mind is the mathematics says that you're going to want this later, so we're going to put it in now. And I'm like, what the fuck am I putting Alice in Wonderland in my book? I hate Alice in Wonderland. Now it makes sense. It bothered me when people said that it was about psychedelics and drugs. It bothered the fuck out of me. It's like, oh, come on. Maybe I was more upset at the interpretation. I really was fucking pissed off at the interpretation because he spoke from the second perspective of the U of I. And I was going, wow, this is X. What does it mean? And I had a bunch of idiots. I'm speaking specifically about my ex. Idiots trying to interpret this genius. And it was the dumbest, most stupidest theories I've ever heard of. It's about drugs. No, it fucking isn't. It is not about drugs. If it were about drugs, no, that's so fucking stupid. All right, logic. If it was about drugs, then the entire book would have no depth and it would be just her sitting there shooting up her arm. Clearly, she doesn't do that. There's a whole lot of conversation about nonsense and logic. And oh my God, Alice in Wonderland makes so much more sense now. It is about perspective shifting. It's about perspectives, how she goes from big perspective. Good God, that's like Gulliver's Travels in 5 minutes or less. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Gulliver's Travels is the journey everyone knows about. Well, not everybody. Most people who know about Gulliver's Travels thinks about Lilliput. And that's actually one of the 4 islands he visits. He's basically a sailor who gets lost at sea. He's a captain and he gets lost at sea and he ends up in Lilliput where he is the giant and all of these little people. And then they wish him away and he goes away. And then he lands on a second island where he is small and everyone is big. And then he goes to a third island in the sky where it's a science island. But despite the science, everyone is highly illogical. And no matter how much math and science they praise, it's highly illogical. For instance, he went to see a tailor and they measured him. They measured the distance in space between his fingers. When they were done, they had manufactured him this suit that did not fit him. It's illogical like that. There's a lot of different other situations that occurred in the book where, in that particular section of the book, where it was like, how could you be X and then result in this? And then the fourth place is with the homonyms and the yahoos. I think that's what they're called, or the yoo-hoos. And it's when horses are the supreme deitized being, the supreme intellect, and humans are depicted as greedy, selfish, lustful. Basically, they're completely, the 7 deadly sins. And the shift in perspective makes him desire to be like the homonyms, the horses who are intellects and have telepathy, instead of being like the greedy humans. And then at the end, he returns home and he is so disgusted by humanity that he can't even eat at the same table with his family. He's been gone for like 20 years. And he has this massive, I remember the diagram in the book, the picture is him at the end table and he's got his family at the far end because he just is so disgusted by them. And that was what his journey was, the summation of. In conclusion, I am disgusted by humanity. That's what I walked away from Gulliver's Travels with, and the 4 shift in perspectives. Now, Alice in Wonderland gives you the same thing, but in a condensed 5-minute version. When she gets into the house and she drinks, she's big. She's small. She cries so much that she floats through this little door that she couldn't get through otherwise. Now she's into the different perspective. Within the different perspective, she's now on this massive journey to try and figure out how to work her way through the fucking insanity that is Wonderland while she's trying to get back home, which is equivalent to us trying to get through, well, what I deemed Wonderland. How ironic. And it was just, and the Mad Hatter, It's just a prime perfect moment of just, there it is, the Mad Hatter and the Tea Party, and the insanity of it. And one of the most prominent moments in the book is when they're running in a circle to get dry in the water. And then she's talking to the caterpillar. And again, it's, oh, you want to shift your perspective? Here, eat the underside of the mushroom. One side makes you big, one side makes you small. So she's got the two sides of the mushroom, and she can now change and alter her perspective. And she's crying at one point in the story, and she says, I just wish I could be bigger. Oh, good God, that makes so much sense. I've done that. I've done that. It's go bigger, you beautiful bitch, you. Go bigger, go bigger, go bigger. Oh, I understand now. It's craving the omniscient point of view. That's why she was upset that she wanted to be a different perspective. Oh my God, it is the curse of my life. I wanted to understand. In order to understand, you have to go omniscient, which is my obsession with going bigger. You got to go omniscient to see the big picture. And if you don't know how to shift perspectives, which you learn when you go into the abstract, now you can see the big picture. This is a journey into the abstract. And I'm going to say it a million times over again. This is internal expanse. And we are so, and I wrote this in a letter. No, I wrote it in my book. I started writing my book yesterday. And I was explaining how we are so terrified of our own minds that we have all these rules. You want to talk about what's wrong with the world today? Let's talk to you. Mommy's going to sit down and we're going to have a talk here. So what's really wrong with the world today is we are afraid of our own minds. We are terrified of insanity. We are so clinging to our sanity that we are highly protective of it. We are in the process of a sanity war. Who's sane? Who's logic? Who's real? What's reality? Let's all define it. And that is how we function. We have this obsession with what is real and what is true and what we're all going to agree on. And that's really what it is. We all must agree. Because the moment we disagree, oh, now we're walking into the abstract, and God forbid we do that. Because now we're getting into the mind, and that is terrifying. And that is really the problem. We are terrified of insanity because we have this abstract concept of what is sanity. And the conformity of what has been defined as sanity is so small that in order to stay within the confines of the defined realm of sanity, it's now impossible. It's now impossible to even be human because we have outgrown the boxed definition of sanity. And now we have made it so small while we are expanding and growing that we are incapable of adhering now to the rules that we have conformed because the rules never grew with us. We've grown, we've developed. Since the 1400s, we've been growing, and we are officially at a point where the defined rules of what is going to be determined as the agreed upon reality, truth, and sanity no longer fits us. And now we have a choice. We can either stay within the confined, undefined box that's now too small for our humanly evolved brains, or we must embrace insanity. But there is another option that no one has ever contemplated. Perhaps we should change the definition of sanity. Oh, you beautiful Don Quixote. But you did this already, didn't you, Cervantes? Yes, you did. You already did this for us. And I picked up on it and put it in broken. When life itself seems lunatic, who knows where madness lies? Perhaps to be practical is madness. To surrender dreams, oh, this may be madness. Too much sanity may be madness. And maddest of all, to see life as it is and not as it should be. Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, which was written in the 14th, 15th century. He already foresaw this. Yes, Cervantes is another one. So that's what I do. I literally map out the layers and the levels of the abstract. It's terrifying because without sanity, what reality do you have? Yeah. Multiple personality disorder has a way of taking that away from you. I faced off with my sanity a long time ago. I really did. And in so doing, I'm gentler with you today. I'm kinder. I can feel it. I had a fear in me that I addressed this morning when I woke up. I woke up with a very clear fear. Fear is the undefined self. It is when you see a situation and you don't know who you are in that defined situation. Pick any situation. We're going to call that X. And you have three choices. Well, three components. Who are you under situation X? Can you survive? And who will you become? And if you don't know the answer, or if you hate the answer, that will develop the fear. Fear. That's what fear is. Fear is the undefined self in a given situation. I'm going to say that again. Fear is the undefined self in a given situation. You're not afraid of the situation. You are afraid of who it will make you, who you will be, and if you can survive it. Knowing this, I woke up this morning with a fear. I was not afraid of my partner on walkabout. I was not afraid of the distance or the time apart. I was afraid of who I would be upon his return. When I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, I had a lot of asshole boys, men, who felt they could come back to me after they abused the fuck out of me. And I greeted them with cold malice. I burned the bridge and I was like, no, you don't get to treat me like fucking shit and think you can come back to me. So when my partner decided he needed to go on walkabout to heal, to cocoon himself and grow himself, oh my God, I love that about him so much. I loved it. I'm like, yes, go do. But I had a significant fear. And I took the only example that I had, my past self, that cold malice bitch, and I applied it to the future upon his return. And I was afraid of greeting him with that cold malice. I was terrified of giving him anything but love and warmth upon his return. We have something in my culture called an Irish welcome. The Irish welcome is world renowned. There is nothing quite like the Irish welcome. It is the warmest, most beautiful, open-armed welcome home. And I was terrified that upon his return after his walkabout, I would be handing him cold malice. So knowing this fear is not knowing who you are in any given situation, I wrote him a letter and explained all this to him, broke it down, and then I painted a new situation. And I used my gorgeous Celtic honor-bound word to promise him that he will always get an Irish welcome from me. Problem solved. The logic is now in my brain, so it's not an issue anymore. And I felt the fear go away. And in turn, the bitterness, the cold, the resentment that I had is now gone. So I can feel it. It wasn't forgiveness. We're taught and we're told that it's forgiveness, and it's not. it's not a lack of love either. It isn't lack of love. It's just fear that turns us bitter because we're scared. Interesting, isn't it? That bitterness and cold, harsh, cruel, these are defenses of fear. But back to that beautiful mirror, we just reflect it back on ourselves. So I say the U of I, which is just a role model. That's really what the U of I is. It's a role model. It's a chosen role model. It's your primary role model. And this role model, we actually have multiple role models. Every time you cherry pick someone in your life, you are selecting what mirror you are going to reflect. Law of reflection trumps all. I cannot emphasize that enough. Law of reflection trumps all. And I had this realization in this moment this morning where, well, it's something I've always known, not always. It's something I've recently come to learn. And it's what allowed me to make the decision to cut people out of my life. Every time we choose to be around someone, we drop them into our lives, and that's who we mirror. We don't get to choose this. The reflection law is there. It's in our brains. This is how we do this. And when you understand how much the reflection permeates our minds, we're not getting away from this. And once you take full knowledge and responsibility over the law of reflection in optic physics, and you really internalize that this is how we learn, it gives you so much control, so much power over what lessons you are going to learn. So when you look at people, it's do I want to adopt this as a lesson? Now, this is where you've got narcissist, which is steeped in romantic love and wisdom love. And this, back to Alice in Wonderland, is really the divide. You have wisdom love, and you have romantic love, and you have brotherly love. What you don't learn until you start descending, journeying through. Let's stop saying ascending and descending. Let's say journeying through the abstract world and the levels of perspective abstract. Is that wisdom love, romantic love, brotherly love, these are levels. They're supposed to be ladder learned. And if you have just romantic love without wisdom love on the foundation, oh, you're going to have narcissism. Wisdom love counters narcissism. And that is wrong with the world today. Wisdom love is self-love. And there is a lot of things in our traditions, religions, culture that absolutely rips self-love apart and throws it away. This is because of narcissism, and it is to nurture narcissism. Narcissism is the cure to scarcity of resources. Narcissism is the hoarding of resources. Now, it's not logical and it's not effective, but it seems the most simple and easy of solutions for a resource rarity problem. COVID 2020. How many people hoarded toilet paper? Simple, obvious solution for a fear. That's why. Narcissism. Every person who hoarded toilet paper and resources has narcissism. True story. Psychology, physics, economics says so. If you hoarded during COVID, you've got narcissism. Yeah, I'm not going to be popular. I'm not here to be popular. I have something called the Narcissist Cure. It is free. In fact, I will drop it down below. If you want to get rid of your narcissism, here you go. If you are not accountable, this is not going to work. True story. Where is the cure for narcissism? Here, I believe this is it right here. So I'm going to drop it down here below. That way you can just get right into this and drop it down below. Dun, dun, dun. There you go. So yeah, if you hoarded, you have narcissism. And the reason why is because the concept of hoarding resources is scarcity mindset. It is the concept of, I can't save myself, therefore I have to do X, taking advantage of people, making sure I have the resources required because I'm not capable of saving myself, or I'm going to take advantage of people in a crisis by hoarding the materials to sell them to the people in crisis. Oh, this is going to be a lose-lose no matter how you cut it. If you hoarded during narcissism, it does not matter what the reason is. If you did, you have narcissism. You might have stage 1, hoarding out of panic. You might have stage 3 or 4, hoarding out of taking advantage of people. I love logic. So there you go. If you want to know if you have narcissism, did you hoard during the pandemic? Did you have the desire to hoard during the pandemic? This is really, really like solid. It's extraordinary. And because we all mirror, because there's all this massive reflection, we all did it. Now you have mass hysteria. That's what mass hysteria is. It is a whole bunch of mirrors looking at a whole bunch of mirrors going, oh my God, we got to. So boom, there you go. I want to say, no, I got to think about this. No. If you hoarded, you have narcissism. There is the person. See, I can say that not all narcissists hoarded, though, because there were some narcissists. I was one of them. So was my partner. We didn't hoard. We used logic. Oh, hoarding of resources is going to prevent us from. So we problem solved. We didn't seek out paper products. We sought out fabric. We sought out alternatives. We started doing other things. We went back to like old school survival. So we didn't hoard resources. What we did was we problem solved, but we both still had, I had level 2 narcissism at that time, and he had level 3, borderline 4 narcissism. We did not hoard, but we problem solved. So I would say all narcissists hoard, but not all narcissists. Come on, where's the logical proof? All hoarders are narcissists, but not all narcissists are hoarders. That's the proof. That's the proof. That is the logical proof. All hoarders are narcissists. True story. All hoarders are narcissists, but not all narcissists hoard. There's my proof. All hoarders are narcissists, but not all narcissists are hoarders. Because if you problem solve, you can bypass the hoarding. Now, my husband, ex-husband, second husband, is a hoarder. So he wasn't hoarding during COVID, but he is a hoarder. So, but he's level 3. All the hoarding and narcissism are like this. They are intertwined. So mass hysteria is actually when the mirrors start reflecting and bouncing off of each other. That's what it is. It's the mirror, the law of reflection that's just going nuts. It's like shooting a laser. It's like shooting a laser in a hall of mirrors. There you go, physics. Mass hysteria is the law of reflection when you shoot a laser in a hall of mirrors. That's mass hysteria. There's physics showing you how psychology works. There you go. That's mass hysteria. That's it. So it's really, mob mentality is the other thing. Mob mentality and mass hysteria are the same thing. Mob mentality is, it's a different laser. Like mass hysteria is a blue laser, and mob mentality is a red laser, but it's still a laser being shown into a mirror in a hall of mirrors. That's mob mentality and mass hysteria, is when the law of reflection goes nuts, because you've got the laser being reflected into all the mirrors, and it's boom, all the mirrors reflect the same thing at the same time. So once you understand the law of reflection and really embed how our psychology just maneuvers around this thing. So back to who you should have in your circle. Now, narcissists say, cut everybody out. Well, don't do that yet. And this is where, because I'm going to say something here and it's really going to contradict. It's going to be 100% contradicting. So I'm going to have to explain the logic of it first. You've got scenario A and scenario B, and this is really the defining factor. So in scenario A, no, my brain is telling me this is going to be scenario B. In scenario B, you want to keep people and never give up on them in any case. You want to give them unconditional belonging and forgiveness in scenario B. But in scenario A, you need new people. Now, scenario A is narcissism and romantic love. Scenario B is wisdom love. This is what I've been trying to get to. Because of the law of reflection, if you have wisdom love, you give unconditional belonging and you forgive. Bottom line, but you have to have wisdom love for that to happen. In the case of narcissism and romantic love, you need new people. You need to have wisdom love first, and then you can give unconditional belonging and forgiveness. Now, let's talk about parents. And this is the problem. When you put a parent in the mix, ideally, it is supposed to be with wisdom love, where you get unconditional belonging and forgiveness. But our parents have narcissism. So it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. What is this thing? Every day it goes off, and I have no idea what it is. So in the case of wisdom love, you want this. You absolutely want this. Your parents are solid on this. You get unconditional belonging and you get forgiveness. But most of us are in narcissism and romantic love. We do not have wisdom love. So the rule of thumb is recycle people, which is what we see a lot of today. Oh, you're not perfect, recycle them. And this is where we keep recycling people. You go out with someone, you give them 2 years, they're not perfect, throw them away. This is where I get a lot of people who step in and they're speaking out of scenario A, advising me, oh, you just need to throw away your partner and get someone better. That's scenario A with narcissism love. This is wisdom love, and it's a different creature. And we don't do that in wisdom love. In wisdom love, you have unconditional belonging and forgiveness. And you don't give, this is it right here. You don't give wisdom love, unconditional belonging, and forgiveness to just anybody. It is what I like to call the circle of trust, which is something that does not exist in romantic love or narcissism. The circle of trust is wisdom love. And it is basically a set of tests, trust levels, and boundaries that allows you to determine if someone has earned your circle of trust. This is wisdom love. If they've gone through this and they've earned it, now they get unconditional belonging and they get forgiveness. Our parents are supposed to be in this circle, but they're not. They are narcissists. This is where we need to go through the looking glass. This is exactly what I mean by through the looking glass. Now, in the circle of trust, with wisdom love, with unconditional belonging and forgiveness, then yes, 100% you want the law of reflection. This is where the law of reflection works beautifully, but it's broken. So what you want to do is you want to go through the looking glass, because if you are in narcissism, you cannot apply, you still have to apply the law of reflection, but you're going to have to change the rules, which is exactly what Alice in Wonderland is about. You got to change the rules. Now, you are still going to have to live by the law of reflection, but you're going to need another mirror. You are going to need the mirror of reality. Thank you so much, Don Quixote. The mirror of reality within the looking glass is going to allow you to change the rules so you can get around your mirror law of reflection. Change the rules. Because if you apply the same thing, it's not going to work. So what ends up happening is we are giving unconditional belonging and forgiveness to abusive parents. Unconditional belonging and forgiveness to abusers. So what we need to do is get that mirror of reality, and we need to basically Dorian Gray them. In order to see the portrait of Dorian Gray, you need the mirror of reality. I need to translate this from 12th perspective down to 4th perspective. All right, let me think here for a minute. Over to 4th perspective. The portrait of Dorian Gray is about a man named Dorian Gray. He's about 20 years old, maybe 18, and he goes in and he has his portrait taken, and he's beautiful, he's attractive, he's honorable, he's ethical. And as they are painting this picture, this portrait, they're having a philosophical conversation in the very beginning of the book about how ethical and moral and wise Dorian is. Well, Dorian leaves, the painting is done, he goes home, and he does something. I think he kills somebody. And there's no evidence. There's no evidence at all. And he notices that he can pretty much do whatever the fuck he wants without any consequence. And he does. All of his consequences get absorbed into the portrait of Dorian Gray. What would we be like without consequence? This is what the portrait of Dorian Gray is really about. It asks the question and reflects on it. What does consequence do to us? So Dorian lives his whole life. He's like 40 or 50 at the end of the book. And he meets his old friends. He meets the people who painted the portrait, and they're like, you haven't aged a day. And it's not quite known what Dorian has done until they remove the fabric off of the painting. And you can see the truth of Dorian Gray. And when Dorian looks at his own painting, he absorbs all of his consequences. When he looks upon his own truth, does he then absorb the consequence? That's deep. That's not my material. That's the portrait of Dorian Gray. So that when he absorbs all of that truth, I'm probably going to go through the great books and like break down each of the books for you and explain, look, this is what the book is really about. Because you require the higher perspectives, the deeper abstract perspectives to understand what the book is really about. And it is really asking the questions. It's saying you do not truly absorb your truth. You do not absorb your truth until you look upon the consequences. That is what the portrait of Dorian Gray looks like. That is it. Now, let's hop, skip, and a jump over to Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, written a whole whopping 500 years prior to the portrait of Dorian Gray. Now, Don Quixote is out. He is slaughtering his windmills, and he's got his family who are adamant that he is not behaving properly. They're worried about him. So they bring people in to try and bring him home. But the priest they bring in says, oh, no, you got to play his game. You got to walk into his world. So I'm going to appear as a knight, the knight of truth. So this priest dresses himself up as a knight, shows up with these men on horses, all fashioned in knights, servants, and squires. And he challenges Don Quixote to a duel. Don Quixote, of course, accepts. Only the honorable thing to do. And the knight introduces himself. Well, the priest introduces himself as the knight of truth. And well, Don Quixote prepares for battle and jousting. He gets his weapon up and ready. And he rides toward his opponent. And the priest withdraws the cloaks off of the mirrors. And he says, look at your foolishness. Look into my truth of reality, or my mirror of reality. Look at the broken old man who sits upon your horse. And it breaks his mind. This is what happens when you prematurely take an abstract mind forcefully out of the abstract world. I am talking to every psychologist in the world right now. You do not prematurely take an abstract mind forcefully out of an abstract world. It breaks Don Quixote, and he enters into a comatose state, and he dies because he cannot live outside of the abstract world. He has to live within that world. So when you are looking at your parents, and your parents are this idealized mirror of your role model, of what you need to reflect, you have to enter through the looking glass, because you cannot apply the circle of trust. You cannot apply the boundaries. You cannot apply any of this with the same rules as scenario B, because you are in scenario A, the narcissist and romantic love. And that is what is going on, is we are trying to learn forward as it's supposed to be if wisdom love were in place. You are supposed to reflect the laws, the law of reflection, naturally through the mirror of watching your parents. But because there is no wisdom love present, it's narcissism, it's going to change the rules. And in order to change the rules, you have to go through the looking glass. You have to absorb your truth until you look at the consequences. Well, you have to absorb your truth by looking at the consequences of the situation, of their consequences and yours, to realize what it is you're really doing. You have to look at the mirror of reality. You have to see the situation for what it really is. You must see the situation. And it doesn't matter where you are, if you're in scenario A or scenario B, you must see the situation as it is. When you see the situation as it is, just ask yourself, is this love or is it narcissist love? A lot of people say, oh, well, they're my mother. That would be great if this was wisdom love. But if it's narcissist love, then that cancels it out. Now you've got a problem, because you're not going to get unconditional belonging and forgiveness from a narcissist. And that's the problem. This is the difference between loyalty to an abuser and loyalty to a parent. Parental love is supposed to be wisdom love, but it's not. My cat has a dog toy, and he loves to pick up this dog toy and squeak it. My cat acts like a dog. Parental love is supposed to be wisdom love. Wisdom love includes unconditional love and unconditional belonging and forgiveness. The question is not my mom and dad, and it's not a question of whether or not it's narcissism or not. The question is, are you getting unconditional love? Are you getting unconditional belonging? Or does your role model have you in a position, and this is the question, does your role model force you to choose between yourself and love, safety, acceptance, belonging, anything? Do you have to choose? Do you have to choose? If you have to choose, you're in a narcissistic relationship and it's not going to work. You're going to have to leave the situation because you cannot apply the rules of wisdom love to narcissism. You can't. Now, if they truly do love you under that narcissism, then they will accept you back after they are cured. So here's the boundary. I love you, Mom, but I have to leave until and unless you cure your narcissism. Period. Yes, you are giving them, you are now the mirror giving them the thing to reflect. If they are going to give you unconditional love, then give them unconditional love. If they give you conditional belonging, then give them conditional belonging. That's the formula. That's the formula that I was trying to dig for. I was looking for it. I'm like, come on, Anna, where is it? Where is it? So I'm like running around all of these books and trying to figure out, like, come on, it only took me Portrait of Dorian Gray, Don Quixote, and Alice in Wonderland to figure this out, but I got it. So that's the law. Use the law of reflection to your advantage. And this is how. If you are getting unconditional love, belonging, forgiveness, I'm gonna use my partners and mine code for you here. We have forgiveness. We allow mistakes. We allow flexibility of our differences, and we allow our growth. Bottom line, those are our rules. Unconditional love, unconditional belonging. That is what it means. A lot of people do not know what love looks like because a lot of people see narcissism and they go, I have no idea what love is. And then they go out and they mirror what they think is love, but it's narcissism. Narcissism is conditions. Bottom line, you cannot make mistakes. They are inflexible. And growth is banned. Now, this violates Mother Nature. These narcissism love violates natural law. Narcissism, I'm going to say this, narcissism violates natural law. You're going to make mistakes. That's how you grow. You're going to be different. Flexibility must be available. You're going to grow. And if you don't, you'll be stunted. You'll shrink. So love looks like this: unconditional belonging, unconditional love, allowance for mistakes, flexibility, and growth. Use the law of reflection. If this is what you are getting, well, then by all means, give it back. And let's look at the flip side of that. Let's go through the looking glass. If you are getting conditional love, conditional belonging, oh, well, then give it back. Under no circumstance do you give unconditional love to conditional lover. Under no circumstances should you ever give unconditional love to an unconditional lover. Period. Period. If your parents are giving you conditional love and belonging, do not give them unconditional love and belonging back. If your partner is giving you conditional love and belonging, then you should not be giving them unconditional love and belonging back. And that is really, this is the mathematical formula that is fucking up the world. This is it. Is what's happening is the narcissists are bypassing all of this with honor thy mother and father. Compliments of Rome. That is what they are doing. They are using this clause. We're going to call that a narcissist clause because that is exactly what it is. It is an abuser's clause. I love to point out abusers' clauses because an abuser's clause, for those of you who don't know what a clause is, let me just take a look here. Oh, I need to look up what a clause is because it means different. I know what it means in grammar, but it's not. It's in law. A clause is a specific point or provision in a law or legal document. It is an exception to. So there are abuser clauses that really hook people in. And you've got your law of reflection. And you've got your what you're told love looks like. But people, they're guessing. And unconditional love and unconditional belonging with an allowance for forgiveness, flexibility of your differences, and an allowance for your growth. That is love. That is love. That is love. Now, unconditional. That is when you get it. But the abuser clause steps in with love your mother and father. Love your parents. Honor them. And now you've got this logical fallacy inside of your brain that is literally locking you into loyalty to abusers. So you continue to give abusers who dish out conditional love and belonging to you with an intolerance for your growth, your differences, and your mistakes. And these logical fallacies, these abusers' clauses, keep you giving unconditional love back to people who give you conditional. That is literally violating the law of reflection because you are no longer reflecting their behavior. Oh, I found it. You are actually reflecting the clause. They have literally, and this is the identity. This is the identity swapping. This is the, I got the words at the tip of my tongue. They're right at the tip of my brain. It's that movie with that guy who wears each other's faces. God, what is the name of that movie where they change faces? I want to say Tom Cruise is in it. And, what is it called? Oh, damn it. Okay, well, I'm going to focus on this now. Face Off. Face Off. That's what this is like. It's Face Off. So, wow, that's really like, so Face Off. So that's it right there, is you've got these abusers' clauses. And instead of, basically, they have this, it's a trick mirror. This is literally what it is. Oh, this is beautiful. I see what they've done. So you've got the law of reflection where you are reflecting your abuser's behavior. But they have this trick mirror where it puts in this abuser's clause so that you have this logical fallacy now. Oh, it's illogical for me to leave or not give conditional love or unconditional love back to my parents, even though they are abusing me, because of these abuser clauses. And the abuser clauses literally supplants your logic with their identity. So instead of blaming the parent, they literally are dismissing the responsibility. Oh, portrait of Dorian Gray. There it is. There it is. So it's these abuser clauses literally act exactly like the portrait of Dorian Gray. And so what happens is when they misbehave, when they abuse, it doesn't go on them. It goes on to the portrait of Dorian Gray. Oh, well, love, honor your mother and father so I can treat you like shit. So your mother or your father treats you like narcissistic shit. You continue to reflect your parents, so you pick up narcissism. But then they point at, oh, well, you got to love and honor me. Now you've got the abuser's clause. So that logical fallacy locks you in, and they completely ride consequence free. Boom. Because they got the picture of Dorian Gray right there taking in all of their abuse. So they don't have to worry about it. Because, hey, they got abuser's clause. And because we're not aware of this, because this abuser's clause locks us into this loyalty to abusers, whether they be our mom and dad, suddenly they can do whatever the fuck they want without any kind of consequence. And we are now compromised with our ethic because we're thinking things like, oh my God, what kind of a person would I be if? And that's really, and now we're back to the reflection of you. What kind of a person would you be if? And that is really our ultimate fear. Oh, good God, is it? What kind of a person would I be? Because we all want to be good. Oh, truly, we all do. This is levels. We all want to be good. And some of us are good. And some of us wish we could be better. And some of us hate that we're not good enough. And some of us have just fucking given up. Where are you? Level 5s. There are some people in the world who are truly fucking evil. When I was doing the psych work on those people, I ended up in the mental hospital because it fucked me up that much, because there are some really fucking horrible people in the world and they like it. These are the I have given up and have truly embraced the evil because I can't do any better. They have quit on themselves. We are talking worse than hopeless. Some hopeless kill themselves. Some hopeless writhe in pain. Other hopeless become pedophiles, become criminals. Those are the 3 faces of the hopeless. Those are the people who have given up and have quit on themselves. The people who hate that they're not good and wish they could be better are a lot of the people who seek out healing. And actually, they are very good people, but they've been conditioned to not see it. And because they've been conditioned to not see their good, they hate on themselves when they're actually very good people. This is where a lot of people fall, is they hate on themselves and they wish they could be better. And that's why they hate on themselves. Because they really, truly think their narcissists have convinced them that they are evil. And then there's the people who want to be good. And then there are the people who are good and who know it. There's also the people who are good and don't know it. That's where a lot of these people are, who wish they could be better. And the reason why is because you have a narcissist basically giving you a fake mirror. They have a trick mirror. And that trick mirror is literally the portrait of Dorian Gray. So, in order to fight the portrait of Dorian Gray, you're gonna need Don Quixote's mirror of truth. There you go. There you go. And the mirror of truth is going to show the narcissist. It's going to show you who the narcissist really is. So basically, Yeah, this is making, I can definitely see the triangle of mirrors happening now. I can see the reflection. And so you look at the narcissist, you're mirroring the narcissist, but they have this second trick mirror that shows you this beautiful, perfect, untouched version of Dorian, when in fact they are standing behind this ugly, atrocious, scarred up version of all of their crimes and evils. And so you can't see the portrait of Dorian Gray. You're looking at the perfect idealized version of Dorian Gray, and you are absorbing the narcissism. And the thing that's going to release you is that mirror of truth, the awareness, the understanding that they have abusers' clauses that are hiding themselves from you. And so you need this basic metric that tells you, am I looking at the actual individual? Am I in scenario A, narcissist love, or am I in scenario B with wisdom love? And here is how you tell. There are 5 questions. Are you getting unconditional love? Are you getting unconditional belonging? Are they allowing and completely tolerant of your mistakes, your differences, and your growth? If they allow all of those 3 things and you get unconditional love and unconditional belonging, you're good. But if you are not getting that, if you are afraid to make mistakes, if you are afraid to be different, if you are afraid of your growth, if you work 24/7 to hide these things, oh, honey, it is not love. That is narcissism. You live in a fear slave situation that's being disguised as something else. That bottom line. And that is where you're going to continue to mirror and reflect because of law of reflection. You're going to continue to mirror that without even realizing what you're actually mirroring because they've got this massive smoke and mirror show happening. And that is really what's sucking you, and that is really what's keeping you locked in abuse. A lot of people think they've escaped abuse when they haven't. And it's a huge, I'll have people come in and I'll talk to people and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm out of a situation. Everything's fine. And I remember this one woman, I was talking to her and she was elaborating about how great her situation was and how she lives with her loving son. And I'm going, okay. And while I was on the phone talking with her, I got to hear her son come in and talk to her. And I listened to this narcissist unleash hell on her because she was talking too loud. And I went, oh, sweetheart, you live with a like that. And the things he was saying were vile. And I'm like, that is a level 3 narcissist. And he's absolutely got you convinced that you are the problem. So she was seeking out therapy to make herself better because she was causing him so much damage and destruction. This is common. This is common. I'm in therapy because I'm causing pain to my loved ones. No, you're not. Stockholm Syndrome. That's what it looks like. That is exactly what Stockholm Syndrome looks like. That is narcissism stage 1. Absolutely. You have narcissism stage 1 in that scenario. They are narcissist stage 3. You probably have superhero syndrome. You probably have what I like to call self-enslavement post-trauma. It's fucking horrible. It's slave mind. It's lowering your eyes to the ground. It is constantly shriveling up, constantly shrinking. It's ADHD where you're shaking because you're constantly shrinking yourself to fit into their expectations because you don't feel safe enough to make mistakes. You don't feel safe enough to be different, and you don't feel safe enough to grow. You are more concerned about making room for them to make them feel safe at the self-sacrificial detriment of the self. That's toxic. That is beyond toxic. And a lot of people are caught in this smoke and mirror show. So many people are caught in this because they do not have the ability to see beyond this smoke and mirror show that the narcissist has put in place. And it's not a reflection of your intelligence. It's not a reflection of your skills. It's not a reflection on anything except how good they are at manipulating. That's what it's reflective of, is how fucking good they are at manipulating. But they don't know it. I was talking to somebody yesterday and he said the words slave of a slave. And I went, oh, that's good. I don't know. He may have been quoting the Bible. I don't know. Slave of a slave. And I loved it. And it is so I see this JSTOR, and I don't know if that is a religious context or not. I have no idea what JSTOR is. But, yeah, I have no idea what that is. But slave of a slave like popped up. It was the very first thing here. But slave of a slave is really, really, it is absolutely a fantastic concept. And this is where I really love to sit back, and when you look at an abuser, they are showing you a future version of yourself if you don't change because of the law of reflection. So if you do not consciously go, oh, I'm going to change. And we're back to if they are not giving you unconditional love and belonging, you need to get rid of them. Now, if you are in a situation where you do get unconditional love and belonging, that's when you keep them. If you are in a position where you are allowed to make mistakes, you are allowed to be different, and you are allowed to grow, that's when you keep them. That's when you keep them. And for a while there, I was on this fence where I couldn't figure out, people are throwing people away left and right. And I'm going, I don't want to be that person. I do not want to be the person to throw people away. And if you're going to become that person, you've got to make sure that you choose really good people. And that's where my circle of trust comes in, with the how to set up boundaries, how to have wisdom, love, how to get people who qualify for your circle of trust. This is available in my classroom on my website, onnaimagination.com. The link is below. So you can locate my circle of trust and follow through. It walks you through boundary processes and how to do that. I have a lot to reflect on, and this is going to be one of those videos where I definitely go back on like a million times over and document. I am in the process of writing a book. I just started it yesterday, and it's going to be a small handbook. It's going to be literally let's go through all of this, and it's literally the breakdown of all of triadic healing. It's the full psychology, the physics, and it's in layman's terms. It's going to be in the common perspective. I love saying that, the common perspective. I actually translate a lot of it. I'll use the 12th perspective, but then I will translate it into common perspective. Like, this is how second perspectives will say this. Second perspectives are very precise about their language. Fourth perspective stands out, and sixth perspective stands out. And then there's my language, 12th perspective. So those are really the 1, 2, 3. There's 4 languages right now that are really precise. Now, firsts and thirds can understand seconds. Thirds and fourths and seconds can understand, everyone can understand fourth perspectives. Almost everyone can understand fourth perspectives because our whole of society is currently fourth perspective. Fourths cannot understand sixths, but sixths can understand fourths because fourths have not yet become sixths. So sixth and fifths can understand fourth perspective. But fourth perspective is really where it stops. And then 12th perspectives can understand everybody underneath that. So, and that's really, really it. So first, seconds, thirds can understand fourth perspective. Fourth perspective has fourth perspective. So and fourth perspective is what I call the common perspective, because that is the language we all have been using since 1492. Invention of the printing press. Age of Enlightenment, when the fourth perspective began. Also, the Lutheranism was another massive divide. And yes, Columbus is crap. Really hate referencing that asshole. So what I do a lot of is I will usually give the 12th perspective, the 6th perspective, and the 4th perspective translation, and then I will get into the second perspective. So those are the 4 things. If there's something, I will reference it. With the Bible, the Bible is in second perspective. The Bible is 100% in second perspective talk. So if there's something I see that's, oh, by the way, this is in reference. So when I do speak in my book about the different perspectives, I give the translations appropriately so everyone can understand them. Anyone can pick up this book and read it and comprehend it so that I break it down. And it's all 100% tying in the physics, the brain science, neuroscience, the logic, dimension theory, mathematics, and I give equations, formulas. After this book, I'm going to be writing a workbook, a corresponding, it's going to be about 90 pages because it's going to be like 1 page a day. It's going to be a corresponding workbook that walks you through the entire triadic healing process from first perspective up to sixth perspective and your completed healing to get you to the seventh perspective. After that, we get into the world of metaphysics, the metaphysical transformation that a lot of fourth perspectives mistake for schizophrenia. And it's not schizophrenia. It is metaphysical transformation. It is the descent into, it is the descent. I like to call it a descension. It's not an ascending, it's descension. I think that's what's been bothering me about the word ascending. It's like, oh, get off your fucking high horse. Ugh, ugh, ugh. It's so condescending. Oh, that's the word. I knew it was there somewhere. The concept of awakening is so condescending. And the concept and the verbiage of, oh, I'm ascending is so condescending. I fucking hate it so much. There. I ban the words awakened or ascending because they are so fucking condescending. They are so fucking condescending to the other perspectives. I'm like, wow, no, thank you. So when I got to that stage and everyone was like, oh, you're awakened. Oh, no. Could you be any more condescending? Like, no. Oh God, it was disgusting. Ascending is condescending. So for me, it's actually a descension into the abstract. You're descending into the abstract. Welcome to hell. We have a party down here. So yeah, it's a descension. For me, it's going forth. That's what it is. You're going forward into the other perspectives. Forgiveness. I'm still working on forgiveness. I'm still like, forgiveness. Emotional transactions. Forward giving when you look at the, so you look, okay, so it's intentional reverse reflection. It's intentional reverse reflection. Intentional reverse reflection. It's when you choose to make them a mirror, your abusers. It's when you choose to make a future mirror. It is literally, forgiveness is when you use your abuser as a future mirror that allows you to glimpse your future so you can learn from it. That is forgiveness. But you have to be consciously aware of it. And this is what it is the way we reflect is we reflect with parent to creation, which is 12th perspective talk for child. I don't like to say the word child. Parent to creation. Again, it's because child is condescending. Parent to child is condescending. It's turning your nose down to the child. I don't like that. That's ageism. I hate that. So it's parent creation. And that puts a lot of responsibility back on the parent to say, hey, you created this. You owe it. Yeah, that's right. Parents owe their children. Oh, yes, they do. Parents do not like to hear that. But it's true. Read Frankenstein. That's actually what Frankenstein is about. Frankenstein is about the debt that a parent owes its creation. In fact, there is my favorite moment in the book. I'm going to read it. Oh my God, do I love this moment. I bookmarked it. I love it that much. Devil, I exclaimed, do you dare approach me? This is Frankenstein talking to his creation. And do not fear the fierce vengeance of my arm wreaked on your miserable head. Begone, vile insect, or rather stay that I may trample you to dust, and oh, that I could, with the extinction of your miserable existence, restore those victims you have so diabolically murdered. I expected this reception, said the demon. All men hate the wretched. How then must I be hated? Who am I miserable beyond all living things? Yet you, my creator, detest and spurn me, thy creature, to whom thou art bound by ties only dissoluble by the annihilation of one of us. You propose to kill me. How dare you sport thus with life? Do your duty towards me, and I will do mine towards you and the rest of mankind. If you will comply with my conditions, I will leave them and you at peace. But if you refuse, I will glut the maw of death until it be satiated with the blood of your remaining friends. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. That is fucking gorgeous. There's more. Oh, well, that's the book. That is the book of Frankenstein. It is not about a mad scientist. He's not a man. It is absolutely about a man who is so afraid of death. He refuses to let go of his loved ones, that he goes to extenuating circumstances to prevent it. And in so doing, creates a creation that he then abandons. And the creation says, you are my parent. How dare you bring me into an existence to abandon me? You owe me. And this is the thing. This is the parent and the creation relationship. This is what Frankenstein is really about. Like I said, I really need to go through the great books and translate them for people. When you understand that depth of Frankenstein, it is really about the responsibility and the debt that a parent owes to their children. One of the persons I spoke to, she wanted me to work with her daughter. And I was working with her daughter for a time. And at one point, we were talking, the mother had some concerns about money, and the child was 18 years old. I sat down with the mother, and the mother was like, well, you know, I have to do this. And she was complaining about the financial responsibility of her daughter. And she says to me, she was a disgusting, vile narcissist. I'm not going to lie. This woman was like a stage 4 narcissist, fucking vile. And she said to me during conversation, I'm just supposed to take care of my daughter? True story. And I said, yes, you are the parent. You chose to have her. That is your responsibility. She is your creation. You do not get to create and then throw away. Which brings me to a play called 5 Actors Without a Play, where the author started to write this play and then abandoned the play in the middle of writing it and threw it in the garbage. 5 actors walk on stage and said, well, now what, Dad? You just kind of abandoned our plot. And the 5 actors proceed to walk around having this discussion of what are we supposed to do without the author of our story? Oh, I love shit like that. So that's really when you, back to forgiveness, when you have this mirror law of reflection that really follows us wherever we go, and you've got this parent creation, it's the creation chooses, well, has to reflect the parent. And it's the parent's responsibility to the creation to provide a proper mirror. And we have this mirror relationship between teacher and child, teacher and student. We have this responsibility with parent and creation. We have this responsibility also between our past self, our present self, and our future self. And the present is the one consciously making the choices of who they're going to reflect. And there's 2 ways to this mirror. There is the absorption in, the receiving of the reflection, and we do not get to choose this, but there is also the reminder of, and that is the other part of it. The abuser always reminds of the victim. Always, always, always. The abuser is reminded of by the victim. Now, the victim is always in a position where they can choose to see that in their abuser. And when the victim looks at somebody else and they see a reminder of their past, now we have that is exactly what's in the mind of the abuser, is this reflection when you are being reminded of your past. When you are reflecting, it's literally a memory. So it's either memory or it's mirror absorption. And when we are the victim, we mirror absorb our abuser. Did you hear what I just said? This is really fucking important. When we are a victim, we mirror absorb our abuser. The only way to prevent that from happening is by reversing the mirror so that they become a teacher. Because when they become a teacher, we have the conscious ability to put up a boundary in our minds and say, no, I'm not going to mimic. Literally, and this is the juice, people. This is the juice. Mirror absorption, the law of reflection, can only be broken by consensual education. Law of reflection can only be disrupted by consensual education. Consensual education ends the reflection. You have to consent to becoming your abuser's student. Because whether the victim likes it or not, the victim is a past memorization, a past memory for the abuser. That is what a victim is. They are a past memory for the abuser. And you are going, law of reflection says so, to absorb your abuser's behavior. And the only way to break this is the consensual education, by choosing to become their student and seeing how you have a similarity to your abuser. That breaks it. If you do not do this, you will reflect the abuser's behavior. Wow. I have much to think about today. Welcome to the second perspective. The second perspective is all about being open to accept. I love open to accept. Open to accept, open to receive is the second perspective, and it is vulnerability. Vulnerability is not weakness. Look up the word. It does not mean weakness. Vulnerability, and that's something I really need to cover one of these days, is there is the accepted definition. There is the actual definition. There is the usage. And then there is the historical, the actual, the accepted. The accepted is how it's used. That's the usage. So it's the historical, that's the actual, that's the meaning behind it. That's how the word came into existence. The actual, that is the literal definition. And then there's how it's intended to be used, which is where we all live. And then there is the psychological meaning behind it, how your subconscious mind is actually using the word. And once you understand that every word has 4 meanings to it, I'm going to say that again. Every word has 4 meanings to it. This is why we have a communication problem in the world, is because every word has 4 definitions. There is the intended, widely accepted usage. And then there is the literal, actual, defined usage. And then there is the psychological usage of how your mind is actually interpreting it, and the historical meaning. Let's use the word vulnerable. Vulnerable means historically to open and to receive, which is exactly what psychologically it means, to open and to receive. However, the intended usage is weak, but the literal meaning is undefined. The psychological meaning is now using the word weak. There's also the emotional meaning, that's something different entirely. So it gives you the definition of emotion. So we think it means weak, when really it means open. So at some point, someone taught us that to be open, to receive, is a weakness. Now, isn't that fascinating? Humility. Let's do humility. Humility means not arrogant. No, it does not. Humility is being used as the opposite of not arrogant. No, it does not. Humility is not the opposite of arrogance. The literal meaning is to keep your pride in check. I would say that it's actually intended to mean empathy. That's really what people are trying to say, is empathy, but they're not. Humility actually means modest to low self-esteem. The psychological definition, be a worm and a maggot. That's what it means. Be a doormat. That is psychologically what the word means. So in order to be empathetic, we are confusing it with, oh, I got to be a doormat. And that's what our subconscious mind is doing when we hear the word humility. So your subconscious mind is shrinking you into a doormat because you don't know how to be empathetic and not arrogant. So you overcompensate. This is exactly how we learn, because you got the indulgence and you got the avoidance and then you've got the integration. But because of fear and trauma, we want to make sure we're not like our abusers. So we go to the extreme, the black and white polarized thinking. So we use a word like humility to make sure we really shrink down low. And now we're back to the whole concept of, I want to be a good person, but my metric is off. So I'm going to stomp myself down to make sure that I'm better because I don't think I'm good enough. And the problem is you over shrink yourself. A lot of people over shrink themselves. And when you over shrink yourself, you end up really doing a lot of psychological damage to the self. And now you lack wisdom, love, when you overdo that. So back to vulnerable and open to receive. When you are open to receive, you can accept love. You can accept gifts. You can accept information. You can accept knowledge. You can accept criticism. To be vulnerable is to be objective. You cannot be objective, and you cannot be vulnerable and subjective. You can't do it. It's not, ethics don't work that way. The math and the physics says no. It does not work that way, because you have to feel comfort and security to feel vulnerable. And once you feel secure, I cannot express this to you enough, that vulnerability is a fruit. It is a psychological fruit that only secure people can obtain. So once you feel secure, authoritative, confidence. Who's your bushy kitty? Who's your bushy cat? Who's your bushy cat? Sorry. Once you feel authentic, secure, and confident, then you get the psychological fruit of vulnerability, which now puts you in a position where you can receive love, gifts, information, knowledge, and criticism. And you can do so objectively. But if you are insecure, it's going to flip you over to the defense, to the fear state. You're going to be subjective. You're going to internalize. And you're going to lash out. And now love, gifts, information, knowledge, and criticism is unattainable, which is why so many people cannot feel love. Vulnerability will allow you to do that. That is the difference between openness. So yeah, but we have this thing in our society that says, oh, vulnerability is weak. Weak? Weak? Oh, Google the word. No, it doesn't. We are taught that it means weak. And who told us that? The word weak or the word vulnerable means weak because a bunch of fourth perspectives bullied you because they are afraid of being open. So because they are being afraid to be open, they are talking about something they know nothing about because they've never been vulnerable. They have no idea. They are confusing submissive and powerless with vulnerable because they are reflecting back on when, oh yeah, that's a whole lot of subconscious mind talking. I'll go ahead and break that one down. So when they were second perspective, 2 years old, and they were open and vulnerable, the subconscious mind went, woohoo, we are open to receive. And that is when they got abused. And now they have a severe aversion to being open to receive again. And now, because they were abused during the second perspective, they were instantly thrown into the severe avoidance, which is where they got frozen in the indulgence, avoidant integration learning center of our brains. And they went, no, I'm going to avoid. I will never be vulnerable again. So they came up with a lie. Being vulnerable is weak, to constantly condition their psychological self and subconscious mind. Don't you dare be weak. Don't you dare, which means they are permanently now frozen in the first ethic. But they're actually not in the first perspective because they were abused during the second ethic, which means they were now launched over to the invasive perspective of the fear zone. Now they have a mental disorder. And that is why they then preach over and over again through vulnerability means weak. Now you've got their creations all hearing that word and now going, oh yeah, vulnerable is weak, without having any idea where that actually came from. It's because somebody somewhere got abused during a point of being open to receive. And when they were at their most vulnerable, their most open, they were abused and got stuck. And our law of reflection picked up and started repeating that lesson through the generations. Wow, I love psychology. I really love this fucking shit. It's so fucking awesome to me. I'm like, yes, math and logic through the generations, passed down through physics. Yes, that's it. Law and logic and math passed down through the generations by physics. That is psychology. So, thank you so much for your audience, and may the kindest of words always find you. Yeah, I really feel warm and cozy now. Like that fear just like